what I would like to do is get into a little bit of case study.
Jim,
Yes.
is there any separate regulation on like chemo drugs, or can those be accepted at a disposal event as well?
Great question. There are certain drugs that I know require different handling. We've accepted everything as part of our process, and we usually have pharmacy students with us that will identify those. I don't know how DEA within their regulations regulates that. Everything that we've taken in is all been patched up and is gone for incineration. I'm not going to go into the reasons for collecting. I think Chris and Jeannie did a pretty good job of that. I'm going to cut to the meat of my talk related to kind of giving you some ideas. In planning events, some of the things you need to identify or go through is identifying a host site. We typically in the past have worked with Costco's, Sam's, or pharmacies like Walgreens, that sort of thing. So you need to have a good area that has access to the public, that will be good from a visibility standpoint on the side of the road where people will see. Listing the project partners, you want to give recognition to everybody that's involved in the event. Selecting the date and time for the event. Project marketing plan and strategies. How do you get the word out? And we'll kind of give you some ideas of what we learned. Like I said, I just learned two great things from Jeannie in terms of what it is that they do and how they get the word out. Project partner planning and meeting. Set up a couple of meetings in advance of the events. You're going to find that as you do these projects, you're going to run into obstacles, and there's no ifs and about that. We actually ran into one in planning this event. We had sent signage to Costco's here in town, and lo and behold, we went to our on-site inspection this morning. I sent the signage a week ago, and it wasn't up this morning. So you need to reconvey to the folks that you're working with about the importance about promotion prior to the event to get the word out. It might be helpful to have a marketing plan that you can put together to say how you're going to market, what's the budget, how much money do you have to invest in this, and then actually event organization in terms of how you actually conduct it. Priority issues, you can't do these events without law enforcement. And so that what I need to stress to everybody that are doing these events or considering doing this is you better have local law enforcement involved right off from the get-go. You're going to need volunteers to man the event. We use, and I think Jeannie, from what you heard, has ties in with pharmacy. So she's got a select group of college kids that she can draw upon, and that's what we've done over the last couple of years. When we first started doing these, we worked with the Department of Environmental Protection, and we had county recycling coordinators involved, and we've really found out, I think it's very beneficial to get college students involved, both from pharmacy students and those in the environmental sector. You need the host site, and then one of the things you're going to need to know right off the hand is how are you going to dispose of these materials. And when the event is done, at the end of the day, local law enforcement is required to take the medicines that you collect away for final disposal. We can talk about how that's managed. Typically it's through incineration. I believe the DEA regs require thermal destruction of those materials as opposed to landfilling. What meets the definition of thermal destruction from some law enforcement officers that I've talked with over the years may vary from what is in DEA regs. I know there are some local law enforcement here in the state of Florida that have incinerators at their facility for disposal of illicit drugs. I'm not so sure that's really in accordance with DEA regs. All the medicines that we take go to a permitted waste energy facility, which is what DEA requires. Just going to show you some slides, the way we set up. This is the Costco in Tallahassee. One of the events is going back to, I believe it was 2010. Set up a pitch tent and start taking in meds. As you'll see there on the front, we use a banker box. And what we end up doing is seal the banker box, tape it up, cut a little hole in the front of it to where we, as the medicines come in, we actually open up all the containers and dump the pills and medicines inside here, with the exception of powders. If it's a powder, the whole container goes in.
Or liquids.
Or liquids, cough syrup, that sort of thing. The whole container goes in. Tubes, whole container goes in. When the container is full, we will then place the cardboard back up and seal it. Ultimately, this container we put in a garbage bag, heavy mill garbage bag, and then turn, after we've weighed it and taken our pictures and everything, and then turn that over to local law enforcement, and they can then take it off. I will tell you, you want to have these things sealed in a plastic container. And we made the mistake the first time that we did this. The deputy that we were working with on Leon County took about 10 of these boxes and put them in the back seat of his vehicle in an SUV. And he wasn't going to go through disposal to the next day. So he locked it up at their compound that they had at the sheriff's office, and went out there the next morning, and some of those liquids had come out and gone through the cardboard box. Well, he had put up with that smell, and if you've ever done one of these events, you understand the smell of pharmaceuticals and vitamins. Really, it was a lot of the vitamins. It just stenched his car for several days, so he had to put up with that. So highly recommend that you put them in a plastic bag prior to disposal. Marketing the signs, this is a good example you see on the screen. This may be helpful. We put out these yard signs that are double-sided. Typically these would go right out front of the area that you're doing it. We like to do it a week before, and it gives everybody, especially like a Costco or Sam's Club or a Walgreens, gives them great visibility in terms of when the event is going to take place. And you'll be surprised about how many people say, oh, I saw that sign, and I'm going to go home and get my medicines. In fact, that will happen tomorrow. You're going to see people, or we will hear from folks that come by the store, see the sign, didn't see the insert, or any of the other marketing campaign, and they'll go home, get their medicines, and they'll come right back. The way the system sets up, we have the residents come in, and they will typically drop off their medicines in bags and boxes. From that point, we will take those bags and boxes and then empty them on the table in front of us. And I learned something from Jeannie. She said that they accept sharps. She also indicated to me that they've already had 3 pricks because of that. So this is very key from the standpoint, don't be putting your hands inside bags or boxes that you can't see inside. That's why we like to dump everything on the table so that you know what's there.
Are you going to accept sharps?
No, we do not. We do not. So if somebody comes up with sharps, and there will be, we'll refer them to the health department.
Well, I'll just tell you really easy.
Yep.
They can take it to any emergency room in Pinellas County,
Oh, really?
and they'll get another container.
Okay.
It's the sweetest little deal.
For free.
Yeah.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
We need a program like that up there.
Yeah, there's another thing I just learned about. So any emergency room, fantastic. The directions that we have on the insert is for folks to black out their names, mainly for confidentiality reasons. I will tell you, once we empty all the pills that are collected, all those plastic containers we actually recycle, and they will be destroyed. They will be shredded up, and so they will be recycled from that standpoint. Deb, question for you, Pinellas County, will they take, and it varies from community to community, of what plastic containers are accepted in curbside recycling programs. Are these type of containers collected in Pinellas County for recycling purposes?
Jan is the queen right there.
I would say they don't want them because they're so small, and they would
Okay.
get caught in the recycling.
Star screens and that sort of thing?
Yeah, they get started in the sorting equipment. Also, there's a concern about if they were Coumadin and some of those drugs, and having the residue on the inside.
Yep.
And they're mostly, what we promote is is reuse some of the, they don't want the Coumadin containers, but some of our shelters will take those containers and put individual servings of shampoo and conditioner and soaps in them, so that when somebody comes, takes a shower for a day, they can hand them three pill bottles worth of, product. But I would say that we do not encourage the recycling of those in Pinellas
Okay,
County.
that tells me how to manage what
Yeah.
we take tomorrow.
And, we have 24 different curbside programs, and we have 24 different municipalities, and then the unincorporated, so every single curbside collection program is different.
Okay, I guess, and to that point, for those folks that are watching the videos and learning more about this, is check with your local recycling coordinator to find out how to handle it. City of Tallahassee, Leon County, we can actually put these in the curbside recycling bin, and they take them. Again, example where the container is actually emptied into the box. Jeannie mentioned about law enforcement. We like to have law enforcement right up by the door, right next door to us, right where we are, so that folks can see that we've got law enforcement there. You'll also notice in that picture we have a local radio station that we did for this, and I'll get into the marketing aspect of what we found to be most effective and the best resources for money. Inside picture of the box, so you can see where the medicines, the pills are actually collected. You'll see the aerosol. We actually put those containers in as well. Separating out, again, all the plastic, all the paper that we collected are recycled.
And I guess I'd like to clarify, I'm thinking pill bottles small. If you had a big aspirin bottle, they probably would be fine in the recycling bin. I think it's the size that's the big problem. They don't want the small pill bottles.
Okay.
Different type plastics too, right?
Yes, there are different types
Yeah,
of
they
plastics.
would need to have the recycling arrow on it and the number 1 through 7 in Pinellas County. But it also, the small pill bottles, no. The bigger aspirin bottles, yes.
Yeah. We actually break down a lot of the materials that you will get in the part of this. You're going to have plastic containers, and then you're going to have paper boxes that are going to come in. A lot of the blister packs will be in paper container boxes. We recycle all of that. Now, this was a lesson learned from my standpoint. The first time we did that, we recycled everything, and I took everything home and I triaged everything. I want to know how much plastic was done, how much paper we collected, how many plastic bags were brought in. And one of the things that I learned from this little exercise, where I dumped it all on my floor, is that your volunteers are going to miss something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to happen. And so you've got to pay attention and you've got to stress this as part of your education process when you're going through the initial instruction of how you run the event. When you break down those paper boxes, you want to make sure that you pull all the blister packs out.
So you individually pop out all the pills? Or
No,
you put
no,
it straight
No,
into the box?
that whole blister pack would go inside the
And
container.
that gets incinerated.
That gets incinerated.
Even though there's plastic in there.
If it's going to a waste energy facility, you're okay. I know what Chris said, but those facilities are permitted. They burn plastics every day.
Really
We
high
like-
temperature.
We like
yeah.
the plastic.
Yeah, it adds BTU
Really?
value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Couple more slides here just from the selections where you can see people coming up. I will tell you, it's one of the most rewarding things when we run these events, in talking with people, that you will have a widower or that will come up, they've lost a spouse, cleaning out their house, and they've got all these medicines. And so from that standpoint, it's very rewarding to be able to offer that you're providing a service to the community. Surveys, we also have conducted surveys in the past. Going back to this one, you can see the way that we've got our tent set up was right next to the drive area at the Costco, and it was very convenient, especially for the folks that were coming in that are elderly. It provides opportunity to just drive up right next to the tent, pass their pharmaceuticals right through the window. let me make a point on this. You can see deputy here actually going up. It's not necessary that he collects all the material. And I don't know how you all do yours, whether you all partner up with folks, but as long as we have law enforcement there, we're under their direction, they can appoint us to interact with the residents that are bringing in the pharmaceuticals. Ultimately, it's you know, everything's gonna be accounted for in that bin and eventually turned over to law enforcement for disposal. We've also partnered up, this is DEP, they had their, I think it was the ecosystem division within DEP did some promotion. You know, Scott, that's what you do as far as getting the word out about what DEP does. We've had very good success. These are great PR events. It's great PR for the regulatory agencies. It's great PR for the folks that are running them like us. It's great PR for the local law enforcement because it's getting the word out that, you know, folks are involved in making a difference within the community. Again, more examples of some of the meds that have come in and what to expect. Survey work. At the end of the day, we tally thing up, and you will see all the plastic containers. And then it's very good to get some PR pictures at the end to show all the efforts that have taken place. Just some comparisons on two events that we did in 2010, February and November. Again, the number of participants, and it will vary from site to site. You're going to see less than 1/10 of 1% of the population, at least from our experience, will actually bring you materials. But the amount of materials they bring in is a little bit concerning from the standpoint that our average over the last, I would say, 10 years is approaching now over 2 pounds per person of the amount of medicines that people will bring in. In terms of marketing, we have found the most successful thing that we have done has been that newspaper insert, and it's relatively inexpensive to do. Send out 35,000 inserts that we're doing that went out in today's paper only cost roughly $2,000. So very inexpensive compared to other marketing trends that are out there and things to do. Again, the example of the insert, which is in your packet. On the back page of our insert, since we're funded through the Department of Environmental Protection, they required us to, on the back side of that, put a notice, though, that in the event that somebody could not participate in tomorrow's collection event, that they have an understanding of how to really dispose of this material. If you partnered up with a private company, perhaps the back page of that, you could actually have your partner, whether it be a Costco's or Walgreens or whoever, actually put an advertisement on the back of it. So it'd be a good way to get your marketing done for free because they could pick up the tab for it.
On this point, Gene, let me ask Jessica, Jason, Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, do you have a drop-off site that the public can use
We do.
on site?
Right at our main office.
We end up telling a lot of people in Tallahassee, for instance, there the Sheriff's Office doesn't have it. The City of Tallahassee Police Department has got a drop-off center open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, but they don't advertise it, so a lot of people don't know about it.
I believe the DEP on their farm page has a list of all the law enforcement agencies per county
Yes.
that'll accept and what times and their procedures.
Yeah, that's a good point, and then
Yeah.
we'll also
And
run
put
into that
people
tomorrow
onto
where
that.
people are at the store shopping, and they're not going to have enough time to run home,
Right.
get their meds, and come back. So we'll tell them how to dispose of it with opportunities like
We're
that.
also doing our own next weekend.
Mhm.
So,
Oh, are you?
Yes. So we'll do it this weekend and then next weekend, along with, I think, 7 other departments in the county. So Turbin Springs, Pinellas Park,
St. Pete,
Clearwater, St.
Pinellas Park.
Pete.
How many events do you all do a year?
Twice a year, we do ones that are pretty much open to the public. But 3 weeks ago, we did a private one, not really private, but it was open to Highland Lakes, where we did a shredding event and Operation Medicine Cabinet. So within 2 hours, I think we collected
Okay.
of medications, and then over 7,000 pounds to shred. So we go to churches, we go to civic groups. We'll be on top of the world in November, and we'll be there for like 5 hours. And all the residents can bring in their unused drugs
Fantastic.
for
Okay.
expired.
That's
And
great.
We get requests all the time.
So citizens
Yeah.
here will get a double header.
We take
Yeah,
care of
nice.
people.
Lots
Yeah.
of opportunities.
Can I ask you guys from an operational standpoint, once you collect it all, who's responsible for it? Does it go to evidence and
It
evidence?
goes to property and evidence and they.
Let
they
me
take it from
repeat
there.
that question, because that's a great question that you just asked.
Repeat the question.
Yeah,
You do it, Jim.
yeah, I will. The question was, what do you do with the material, what does law enforcement do with the material at the end of collection? And Jason, you were saying?
Basically, we weigh it, we're gonna put a case number on the box, we secure the box, bring it to our property and evidence, and they have their procedures to get rid of it. We use an incinerator to get rid of it.
So that was my follow-up, does property and evidence then from Pinellas County have to obtain a court order for the destruction of that?
I don't believe so.
Since you assign a case number to it?
I don't believe so, no,
Okay.
but I'll find that out for sure and I'll let you know, I'll
Okay.
contact, do you know the answer to
I
that?
don't believe they do.
I don't think they do, but I'll find out for sure and I'll give, your name's on this?
Yeah,
right?
it sure is.
I'll contact the people over there.
Okay, great, thank you.
But then when they get ready to get rid of it, they call Pinellas County Solid Waste, and
Mhm.
they'll set up a special handling, because we have to handle it as special waste.
Right.
So they have to observe the destruction of it.
Right.
We'll close off a bay, they can throw it directly into the pit at the waste
And I
From
think that's
our-
why we do the 2,000 pound thing, cause we want a certain amount.
It's
Right.
only 37.50 a ton.
You guys,
Okay, so
when-
you do charge us then, right, or no? Okay,
Yeah, they
because
come.
it's county,
We
we
do.
What?
We do pay, we do charge it.
Okay, that's what I
You-
All right, so the
that's
question
what I
is
thought.
in
It's
disposing, who
37.50 a ton.
pays,
Yeah, it's
what are the
cheap.
costs?
That is cheap, a lot cheaper than our ticket fees.
Right. We work, in doing our event in the Tallahassee market in Leon County, we work with Bay County, and they've been very gracious to accept everything that we've collected for free. And so, we have to designate a time that we go into the waste energy facility, they shut down, just like what you were talking about there, where they shut down a bay. Sheriff's office will come in and they'll unload, and they will inspect it going up the ramp and into the system.
And not every county has a waste to energy plant.
Yeah.
And so some of the rural, fortunately Tampa Bay area has several, just, 4 or 5 right here. But, we get, some evidence and materials from sheriff's offices in, Citrus County, Hernando County.
Well, cause we're way out there and we're very, we don't have a lot of access to.
Waste energy.
Exactly.
Yeah, when you're in a rural committee, that is gonna be an issue, is how you dispose of the material.
Jean, well, you mentioned that, how much you got from those signs, people seeing signs. What I'd suggest is, if you ever do it in Pinellas County again, ask us if we'll put up one of our burial message boards. We just did a partnership with the DEP where we did Tire Amnesty Day, and we thought we did a lot of advertising, and most people said, I saw that variable message board. And we could put it up a week ahead of time and just say, this event's gonna be here on
All right,
Saturday.
and the variable message board, is that a digital board?
Those big signs, yeah, those big
Okay.
digital signs. So if you partner with another public entity, the public works departments generally have them,
Yeah.
or their highway departments.
Okay,
It's good.
great idea,
Free
thank you.
advertising.
Recommendations that I think are needed, and under Ray and I have talked about this every time we do these events. More education to the public about not flushing unwanted medications down the toilets and drains. Need to make sure that folks understand why it's important not to do that. Need clearinghouse activities on this issue to be coordinated on the state level so that everybody knows what's going on within the state, who's doing what. You talked about DEP's page where they have the local law enforcement and the drop-off areas. We need more of that. Need funding for education and the actual events themselves. Development and passage of further legislation to allow for the use of pharmacies as drop-off locations. Got to make it convenient. I know there are concerns by the EPA about, potential reuse of some of this medicines by the pharmacies, and that's why they want to make sure that it is controlled. law enforcement needs to be able to thoroughly destroy the meds at the local level, getting to the point about rural communities, just as they do now for illicit drugs. Most of the rural communities have their own burn units. Right now, from what I have read, the destruction of medicines that are collected are not allowed, according to DEA, to be destroyed of in the local burn units. I would argue that it's more advantageous to actually allow law enforcement to do this as opposed to having those materials being flushed down the toilet.
Has Pinellas County ever destroyed controlled substances
I don't
in
believe so.
your own incinerator?
No, I don't believe we have.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, yeah, that's always.
In an incinerator that's owned by the sheriff's office?
No, Pinellas County
Oh.
solid waste.
Yeah, I think he's talking
No,
about.
he's talking
No, yeah,
about
I'm
burn
He's
units
talking about
that local law enforcement.
directly,
Right.
no, I don't believe, we've always utilized their services.
Yeah,
And
which
the
would make
issue
sense
is-
since they've got
The
the
issue,
show.
I guess, is pollution control on the back end.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
And the waste energy facilities all have it, which is a major difference. But what you're talking about, in terms of that recommendation at the end is, if it could be done at the local level
Right.
through law enforcement, it would save a lot of time, toil, trouble, and money.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, and like I mentioned before, Florida is in a better situation than many states just because we've got so many more qualified incineration units, because we've got 12, 13 permitted waste to energy plants in Florida where the stuff can go. So I don't know what they do in other states that don't have the burn facilities. It must have to be transported long distances if you're going to go by the rule of the law
Right.
with DEA.
yeah. Well,
So
just
I
from
don't
talking
know
with
how-
Jeannie and knowing from what some of the other communities are doing, a lot of local law enforcement officers are actually dealing with it through their existing burn units.
Right. They're just
Yeah.
doing it.
All right, at this point, I think we've really done what we wanted to accomplish, and that is to get all this on recording.
One of the reasons it's really important to Pinellas County is because, we have a very robust, water treatment, and reclaimed water program that it goes to all our lawns and not just,
Golf course?
yeah, golf courses, but we've got, people have access to it for their yards and stuff.
Okay.
And it's really, I don't know how many people do it, but it's
25% of the population.
Using reclaimed water.
reclaimed
Yeah.
water.
That's fabulous.
Plus the golf courses, that's just
Right.
homes, 25% of the homes have it.
Nice.
From what you all saw, anything that we do different? I would like to hear from other communities, other agencies that have done this. What is it that you all do differently from what you just saw?
In terms of collection days,
Collection or management or organization?
you know, we put everything out on Bay News 9. They do most of our advertising.
Okay.
It's out on Facebook, Twitter, so any of our social media feeds, that's
Mhm.
where we advertise.
Thank you.
I don't know if the county site puts it out on Nextdoor because they've got a base of 75,000 people, where the sheriff's
Yes.
office is not on Nextdoor,
They
so
do,
perfect,
yeah.
great.
That's where Jan comes in for me. I just
Yeah,
send
we have
her
a
the
nice
flyer.
we have a nice partnership.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
send
Between
Jan
the
that
sheriff's office
information
and
and
county.
she gets it out, but we also put it on our website. And, the other agencies, if we're doing it in conjunction with them, we'll advertise that way as well. Our PIO department, will do a news blast. They'll let all the local news agencies know that we're doing it, and they'll get something, and they'll do on the news, they'll do a 45-second thing about it a couple days before we have the event. And then they also like to follow up, after the event with something that, what did we do? How much did we collect? That type of thing.
Okay.
We also have about 300 neighborhood watch groups in Pinellas County, and unincorporated, so we send out email blasts to all our neighborhood watches. We expect them to put it out on social media, so Nextdoor, Facebook, or an email blast to their residents as well.
That's great. That's great. Yes, Chris?
I know a couple of years ago, we partnered with, DACA, I believe it was, to do one of these events, but we also handed out these, drug disposal bags which neutralize the chemicals. You can put the drugs in there, pour some water in there, and then it neutralizes the chemicals. So we're able to give something for them to take home or to pass out to their, friends.
Right, those actually don't neutralize the bag or the chemicals, they solidify. So
Okay.
it's more like bentonite that's inside those
Right.
bags, and you add a little bit of water into it, and it makes a cake or
That's why
something that
the suggestion
solidifies
for
the pill, so
kitty-
people can't
kitty
ingest
litter.
it.
What does something like that cost though?
They had a grant, so it was just free for us.
Right.
And that's why we partnered with DACA, and they wanted we did it at like 5 or 6 locations throughout the state.
I think that a program like that would be very effective for some of the rural areas like Gilchrist
Yep.
and Swanee.
But,
Yeah, at least provide
Make
an
it
option.
convenient.
but we had several hundred bags left over from the one I did in Seminole. And so I took it like up to the villages, and they had an environmental day, and all the old people were like, oh, well, this is great.
Yeah.
So it was they were able to dispose of their meds and just, put them in the trash or whatnot.
And then that would not leach out into the waste stream?
No, with these bags, it was all
It's a heavy plastic, so it's gonna present.
decomposable.
So 1,000 years from now, it'll still be in the ground.
Well, these particular bags that we had, they said everything was decomposable, but I don't know. I wasn't sure of the science of
Right.
everything. That's why I said it neutralized, because I wasn't sure of the science.
It would be much easier for a community like ours to do something like that because a lot of the residents are homebound
Right.
and they don't, I get.
It's either that or
inundated.
express out their, convey DEP's guidance
Right.
about how to dispose of it. Real quickly on promotion, you mentioned Facebook. This is an ad that we just created, went out this morning.
When you keep medications in your home, it increases the risk of illegal use. But don't flush them either, as they could get into our drinking water sources. Dispose of your unused or expired prescriptions Saturday, April 22nd from 11 to 3 at Costco and Clearwater Mall. And help protect our environment and water supplies. Brought to you by Southern Waste Information Exchange and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. Call 1-800-441-7949 or online at swixusa.org. Sharps Medical Waste and Thermometers not accepted.
So that was a little radio spot that we had recorded by Bill Kelly with Clear Channel, and we just did that voiceover on top of a little slideshow, and then posted that up as a video on Facebook, and pumped a little bit of money into it. We did 2 versions of that ad. We're trying to compare A/B study stuff to figure out what is more effective, and try to further with as much as going on with social media right now. You want to know what works and what doesn't.
The other thing we've done in the past is through our contacts, Gene and I, with the medical community, doctors' offices and other institutions in Tallahassee, Leon County, is the email blast to them, basically sending them our flyer that then they can use with the people, of course, that they interact with all the time.
The other thing is, I would say, if you work for the county and speaking of email blast, gets the water and wastewater customers, put it with their bills or something like that, so that all their customers know that the event's coming up. Everybody has to pay their bill, hopefully. So.
Good point. Good point. I know Jefferson County did that on the event that we just did a couple months ago.
I don't know what came out of it, but didn't we try to cooperate with the city of Tallahassee and their utility bill?
We have. All right.
I just wanna make sure I'm not missing something here.
Yep.
Who are you with the EPA?
No,
Are you
no, we are not. SWIX is Southern Waste Information Exchange. We're a 501c3 nonprofit,
all
and
right.
we assist industry and municipalities with waste issues.
Okay, so that was my next question,
Yeah.
if you're a nonprofit,
Yeah.
and you are actually a 501c3.
We are a 501c3.
And so if we wanted to reach out to do one of these efforts, do you only do them like certain times of the year? Cause the one next weekend's DEA, right, with them. So if we wanted to reach out and have a collective effort with you, then
Sure.
we just call you?
You
even-
give us a call. Now, being 501c3, we have a limited budget. We are funded by the state of Florida. It's
Mhm.
pass-through funding that comes through the Florida Department in a special line item appropriation. So we have a scope of work that we do for the department, and that this year's scope of work has a number of different tasks in it. One of them was this workshop, the other was a collection event, 2 collection events. We had one in October at Costco in Tallahassee, and then the collection event tomorrow. If a community wants us to come in and do it, we can certainly help out. We just need to ask if you guys can cover our time and material, because we're gonna give up a Saturday to do it.
Right.
So time and travel is what it would boil down to.
Okay.
Relatively inexpensive. All right, well, thank you, everybody. Hopefully you all have learned something, and
We're
this
gonna
has been
see you
beneficial.
tomorrow.
Wow.